toi s'élève ma prière. Je dois trouver grâce à tes yeux. C'est en toi, Vierge, c'est en toi que j'espère. Mon fils, console ma misère. Il souffre hélas, il est mourant. Comprends mes pleurs, toi qui fus mort.
Can you tell me what sort of a shock it was moving from the last field in all that mud and depravity to Castlereagh? What sort of big deal was it?
Okay, well, for us youngsters, apart from the fact that we had a green grass back in the back and green in the front of the garden, we were just amazed at the electric light more than anything, and the fact that you could turn a tap on and get
That's
water.
interesting, because I mean, at the last field, you had no electricity at all, did you?
No electricity, no.
How did you manage to see in winter?
The cheapest thing was a paraffin lamp.
Right.
If you could afford the paraffin lamp, that was your whole light. If you couldn't, you had a half-p you paid for a candle, which would probably last an hour.
Really?
So yeah, a lot of people, it was strictly candle light.
Gosh,
But,
so yes.
most of us would have come by a paraffin lamp.
Yeah.
And okay, you can get used to anything.
Yeah. So you moved to Castlereagh, and then all of a sudden, electricity was available at the
That's
touch of
right,
a button.
just a switch. And my mother, I absolutely attribute that move to the fact that she lived to 98.
Wow.
As a very contented woman. I never knew my mother to be discontented or moan. And like, if I could just reel off life in the shack, which we called a caravan. In short, a very small diameter, about 8-inch diameter fire situation.
Yeah.
That you lit, you did your cooking, boiled your water, and that for washing everything. So in the caravan itself, just a curtain separated one half from my dad and my mother, and what we call the kitchen, where you had that stove, that firelight.
Yeah.
So that was that
Yeah.
all-purpose half. The other half is where us kids would be.
Yeah, I suppose the problem with Castlereagh was that you've got all these amenities. You'd got gas, you'd got mains water, you'd got electricity, and a coal fire. But now you had to start paying for all these amenities, didn't you?
Right. Well, yeah, and there are stories galore. But in short, your gas was 1 penny for the gas meter for gas, and for that penny, you'd certainly get a day out of it. That's how cheap gas was. Manufactured at the gas works in Wallasey, where my father eventually, another coincidence, got a job there and was there for the rest of his life. However, the electric was the all-important life giver. 1 shilling you put in the meter to see you had your electric light. But more important than that, when we all got affluent and could afford a radio, and lots couldn't.
Radio?
Oh, a radio. Wireless. My father lived for one thing only, that was the news and the weather forecast. And military marches and that. When we got to like teenagers, us youngsters, listening to the American bands and that, we'd run home from school for that. But time and time again, this was life in the council house on the meters, your shilling would drop in the middle of a most enjoyed serial or programme or something, and the route would be on, and you'd be praying that your mother had a shilling in a purse. But anyhow, fortunately, most of us had a couple of foreign coins, and this was a double whammy in as much that, right, you use that in the meter, but when the meter man came about once every 6 weeks to empty the meters, the foreign coins, of course, normally you would have got a rebate on how much. If you'd been totally honest, you might get a shilling rebate, which it was great. But if there was foreign coins, you'd have to substitute them with the real thing, money, or you'd be fined.
Yeah.
And people all looked after the houses here because most of them had come from the fields, including my future brother-in-law and his family. So they all had the one thing in common, and that was having experienced the hardest kind of life you could have, with a freezing wind coming off the Irish Sea, blowing snow or whatever. And at the same time, it's flooding, so you know you've got to step out into the cold water in the morning. But you've survived the night, and that's the way it was. And just to like echo that, in the 1950s, I was a foreman on the new Cadbury's factory building at Liso in the fields by Morton Station, and it rained for 6 weeks and flooded everywhere.
Wow.
Not only our old last field, but all around Liso Hospital, and everyone's in boats.
My goodness.
Yeah, so like that was in modern times.
But just back to Castle Way.
Yeah.
Tell me, the street lamps then were gas, weren't they?
Absolutely. The lamplighter would come round.
On his bike?
Wally Davis, I
Yeah.
can see him now on his bike, with
Yeah.
a great big long pole with a hook on the end.
Yeah.
And he would reach up and he would get the hook in this round circle, and when he pulled it down, that meant the light would come on.
Right.
It must have been timed to go off somehow or other, because he didn't have to come round to put it off.
Yeah.
Wally Davis, and
Wally Davis.
whilst I'm on with him, these are the characters you had. I only know his sons went in the Merchant Navy, but Wally was the lamplighter, and what was I going to say now? Yeah. Oh, also...
He took the bets,
as important as anything else, he lived in the next Reeds Avenue. He was the one you went to on Grand National Day or Derby Day in Ireland, or the Irish Sweep, to buy your ticket. Illegal, of course, but supervised, I'm glad to say, by our one and only policeman who lived on the estate in Reeds Avenue, about 10 houses away, who knew exactly what he was doing. But that was it.
So if you wanted to put a
bet on
a horse, you would stop the lamplighter, Wally, and he'd take your bet.
Or go round to his house, which you knew, knock on the door, Wally'd come to the door, and you just, if you were doing it on behalf of your dad, I'd give him a bit of paper. If you were the man of the house, you'd hand him your bet. So that was as much a part of the estate life as any. But other things were, you were serviced by a couple of guys come from Birkenhead. One, Tommy Edwards, I remember him well, loaded with produce, potatoes, oranges, apples, everything. And I can see him now. By the time he got to this close here, in there, he'd have very little left on. He'd come all around the estate and they'd buy a pound of potatoes and other things, you know. But I can see him now, honest to goodness. I can, with his carbine lamp on the horse and cart, and okay, he's only got a little bit of stuff left, and he either throws an apple or gives somebody, oh, madam, you can have these for sixpence, you know, the last of the potatoes there. And then he'd take off with his pony 5 or 6 miles to Birkenhead. And he'd done that once a week, and there was all that kind of thing. Regulars come with the produce to sell you, you know, knocking on your doors, all sorts of people.
And you'd have a milkman come round, I guess.
And the milkman, oh yeah, he was the only one in another planet, because he had an electric motor.
Wow.
That went very slow, but electric.
Yeah.
And we all used to look at it with fascination, because there was only one car on the whole estate, and that was, what's her name? I've forgotten his name for the time being. Wally's name was. He lost a son in the Navy during the war on a war spite. But he'd have this old car parked outside his house, and I can only ever remember it moving once in the whole year. He drove the Wallasey Corporation dust cart, as we call it.
Did he?
That collected the bins and that, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was very affluent. He had an old battered car, and he was the only one who did have a car until after the war.